So today I'm going to teach you one of the many ways to hem a pair of pants. So let's get started.
So the first step is going to be figuring out where you want the pant leg to sit. You want to make sure the person is okay with this, and wherever they want it is where you want to put it. Because the pant leg was so long, I first tried to put it inside, but that turned out to be too much bulk, so I flipped it outside so the leg was turning inside out. And then I pinned where he would want it to sit so that I would have a good marker that would stay put for a little bit and let me know this is where he wants it to sit on his leg. Here you can see the pant leg pulled inside out, and then I just measured just in case the pins fell out and just to be safe. And this was also the best way to figure out how much needed to be cut off. So I figured to get the length that he wanted, I needed to take off exactly 8.5 inches, and that's with the hem. So I knew I didn't want to cut off 8.5 inches. So I needed to create a hem that was 2.5 inches, and so I wanted to cut off 6 inches. So I used my seam gauge and a marking pencil, which is a special pencil that can mark on fabric, and I used those to measure my 6 inches all the way around so that I got an even distance from the bottom of the pants. The next step is cutting the excess pant leg off. And this is where you want to be very sure that you measured correctly and that that's the length you want it at. Because if you make it too short, it's harder to go back, whereas if you make it too long, it's easier to cut off more. To do the next steps, I just laid the pants out on an ironing board. The next step is to fold the raw edges of the pants up 1/4 of an inch. Now I'm doing this so that I can encase the seam and you won't have any extra threads hanging out or coming loose, and it'll just look a lot cleaner on the inside as well as on the outside. So I turned the hem up 1/4 of an inch, and then I'm just going to place a piece of fabric on there and then iron over it. Because of the type of fabric the pants are, you don't want to iron directly on the pants, so this is going to help so that it doesn't burn the fabric. Because this fabric doesn't iron quite as nicely as other fabric does, I decided to stick some pins in it so that way it holds it in place and keeps that 1/4 inch hem that I want to stay there. Once I have all my pins in place, it's now time to turn the rest of the hem up, that 2 inches that I accounted for. So this is going to be pretty much like what we did with the 1/4 inch hem, but just bigger. So I'm just going to turn it up and try and make it 2 inches all the way around. So this may take a little maneuvering and a little patience and a little time. Once you have the 2 inches measured all the way around, now it's time to start pinning it down just like you did the 1/4 inch. Now remember, your measurements might be different than mine, so make sure you are using the right measurements for your pants. I forgot to film this part, so hopefully you can hang in there with me and look at this makeshift hem. And on the right side, that is going to be like that where the rest of the pant leg would be. And then on the left side, that's going to be the bottom of your pants. So you should have the 2 inches pinned all the way around now. And now is time for the hand sewing. So I'm going to show you how to do a slip stitch. So you're just going to start with a needle and thread. I'm going to be using white thread so that you can see it better. The first stitch is going to be on the layer right behind where your 1/4 inch hem is laying. Now you're just going to take a stitch of about 3 or 4 threads, not showing on the other side, so just barely hanging on there, and you will pull the thread through. Right where you folded the 1/4 inch over, you're going to make a 1/4 inch long stitch, just like going through a tunnel. And you're just going to put your needle through and then pull it through. And that's going to actually hide the threads. And then you're just going to do that all the way around the pant leg. So here we have, there's my beginning point, and then there's where I went through the tunnel or through the 1/4 inch. And now I'm going to make another stitch, just like I did at the beginning, just a couple of threads. You don't want it to show on the other side of the fabric. So you're just going to take a little chunk, and you may want to check and see, make sure it's not showing on the other side. You're just going to pull it all the way through, tighten, and then make your tunnel again. Right along there. It's just going to be about 1/4 of an inch long. The longer you make it, the more loose that hem is going to be, and then it could get snagged on like a toe or on anything depending on what type of hem you are doing, whether it's on a skirt or on a pair of pants. So you just want to be careful about that. The shorter is the better, and that's just going to hold it right in place. And this way you won't see any threads. You may see a few on the wrong side, but if you do it nicely, you shouldn't see very many threads. So I'm just going to keep going all the way around this pant leg. So there I took my chunk again, and then I'm going to go through the tunnel again. So when you go through the tunnel, make sure you are only going through this front layer and not through the back layer. The back layer is only where we take the 3 to 4 thread little stitch, and then the tunnel is the front layer. Here is a look at the right side of the pants. As you can see, you can't see any threads, and I used white thread. So if you just take little pieces of thread and not huge chunks, you shouldn't see much. And here you can see how it's holding it nicely together. It's not pulling apart. There's no holes, and it's just a nice hem that's very clean, and it encases all of your raw edges.
So once you are done doing the hand sewing, you need to try them on to whoever is going to be wearing the pants and make sure they are the right length. If they are, great. You did a great job and you got the measurements right. And if not, you might need to go back and tweak a few things. So just look at that and make sure it's the length that that person wants. I hope this video helped you guys out. Stay tuned for more. Subscribe and thumbs up this video. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. See you next time. Bye!